Sonic games can be hard to come by. When games usually get old and harder to access due to technology progressing and new consoles coming out, it becomes harder and harder to access older games. And Sega has not been the best when it comes to updating their games for newer technology. Even when it comes to porting their games to newer systems, they usually rely on if the consoles will have backwards compatibility or not, opposed to just making new releases of the games for newer audiences. But when they do put in an effort, they usually suck. These poor versions of these games usually come out in the form of remasters. So since I'm bored and have nothing else to talk about, let's go through every Sonic remaster ever and talk about all of them because content. Starting with the first remaster, here we have Sonic Jam. Yes, I know this is debatable, it could be an enhanced port or a remaster, but for whatever you want to call it, I'm still going to talk about it because I can. The differences here may be very minor, but they're mainly taking advantage of the Saturn's more advanced hardware than the Genesis, and also making other glitch fixes to the games. The PAL versions now run at their original 50Hz refresh rate, customizable lock-on technology where you can play 3 and K separately, Knuckles in Sonic 2 or Blue Sphere, a time attack mode, a special stage marathon mode, and even being able to disable time overs in the games. There's brand new difficulty modes with easy and normal, making changes to level designs and bugs seen in the original games, and even skipping entire acts entirely on easy mode. Normal is pretty much the same game, just with bug fixes and a few level changes, along with being able to spin dash in Sonic 1. So if you ask me, Sonic's Jam's remaster of these games is actually pretty well made, and on top of these remasters, there's an amazing side mode called Sonic World, an open world area where you can run around, play mini games, view old Sonic memorabilia. It's a really cool collection, and for the time was probably the best way to play these games. If you were one of the 6 people actually on the Saturn. Man, Sonic remasters aren't that bad. What's next? Oh, okay, I'm starting to see the issues. While calling Sonic Adventure 2 Battle a remaster is a bit of a stretch, as it's almost one-to-one the original, there are slight changes under the game that aren't exactly for the better, mainly related to cutscenes like missing textures, issues with transparencies, Amy being cross-eyed, etc, etc. Hell, calling it a bad remaster though is an even bigger stretch, considering that this game is still relatively the same, due to the fact that they had about 5 months and a week to even make the damn game. The main driving point of this port was, of course, Sonic being on GameCube for the first time, but also the brand new revamped battle mode. The game also had other improvements, like a arguably more iconic intro, higher poly models, and other things that general audiences may prefer. Overall though, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle isn't bad. As a person who grew up with this version of the game, I genuinely don't have too many problems with it. It just kind of looks uglier in certain aspects, and I do prefer the Dreamcast version in terms of certain looks, but if you just want to play Sonic Adventure 2, the battle version ain't gonna kill you. Alright, now things get bad. Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut was a remaster for the GameCube, and it ruined Sonic Adventure's legacy for years to come. Not only did the game just end up looking 10 times uglier on GameCube, with certain lighting effects removed, broken transparencies and reflections, and even more issues, the game came out also as a broken mess. Now the game isn't unplayable. As a person who also grew up with DX, I can say again, won't kill ya, but it has done some pretty irreversible damage to Adventure's representation, mainly with the wonky collision, bad camera, and being able to phase through 90% of walls in the damn game. Now SADX did add some enhancements to the game, mainly Mission Mode and the Game Gear games. While Mission Mode isn't anything to write home about, they're relatively forgettable, the Game Gear games being included was quite nice due to the fact that these were the first time these games had been ported until Sonic Mega Collection Plus would only include a handful of games afterwards. The game even added an 100% reward with a playable Metal Sonic. Sure, it's a Sonic reskin, but it's better than the nothing the Dreamcast version gave you. Sonic Adventure DX is a overall worse version of Sonic Adventure. It's still playable, but again, I recommend you play the Dreamcast version or at least SADX on PC with mods. Speaking of that, these remasters of the adventure games were eventually considered the de facto way of playing these games for these titles. SADX would eventually get ported to PC later in 2003, and in October of 2010, SADX will see release on modern consoles with a PC Steam version following in March 2011. Sonic Adventure 2 Battle would see a consoles release on October 2012 and a PC release in November 2012. and with these re-releases of the games, they somehow get worse and worse. While SA2 Battle mostly stays intact, only really having some changes to the Chow Garden, removing certain Chow, SADX somehow got more and more degraded with each port, adding ugly borders to the game, and even more bugs. But these versions of these games are still playable. I grew up with them and I still like the games, but if you want a more definitive way of playing SADX and SA2, these probably aren't it. And continuing the trend of bad remasters is Sonic Genesis. To celebrate Sonic's 15th anniversary, Sega thought it'd be a great idea to remaster Sonic 1 just for the Game Boy Advance. And it sucked. I've never played this thing, and I don't want to, but from what I hear, it features god-awful screen crunch, physics that makes Sonic feel sluggish, and an inconsistent frame rate, remixes that sound like Moss's Beta's track, along with other issues that just make this version of the game not worth the time. Hell, this game is so bad that Stealth, one of the creators of Sonic Mania, will end up remaking the game to show that Sega was just being lazy with the port. Thankfully, we will see a good remaster in 2011 of Sonic CD. For a while, Sonic CD was always considered one of the hidden gem classic Sonic games, due to the fact that for a while it was only available on the Sega CD, and the PC port seemingly flew under the radar, but for the most part, the game was seen as a hidden gem. The game was eventually released on Sonic Gems Collection in 2005, but then people realized the game was dog shit. The game had a host of problems. Bad collision and an unnatural spin dash were primary problems with the game. So Christian Whitehead pitched a Sonic CD port to iOS, like the Sonic 1 and 2 iOS ports from around the time. And not only did Sega end up greenlighting the port, but also wanted it on consoles and PC. And it would release on consoles and mobile in 2011 and on PC in early 2012, featuring multiple enhancements like a proper spin dash, widescreen, 60 FPS, and a toggle between the regional soundtracks. And for a while, it was a definitive way to play Sonic CD. And with this, Christian Whitehead was tasked with making mobile ports of Sonic 1 and 2. Not 3 and Knuckles because the Jackson estate wanted to Sega and court over its soundtrack. These mobile remasters would become praised for their amazing additions like playable Tails and Knuckles in both games, Super Sonic and Sonic 1 with a 7 special stage, save files, widescreen, etc, etc. But for some reason, Sega would take almost 10 years to release these versions of the games on consoles with Sonic Origins, but they finally did it in 2022, and removed save files. The next Sonic remaster we would get wouldn't come until 2021 though, with Sonic Colors Sonic Colors Ultimate. Sonic Colors Ultimate, Sonic Colors Ultimate. Sonic Colors Ultimate was a seemingly new version of Colors with updated visuals that were divisive to say the least. While most people agree that the original Colors kinda looks better, you have people that like this look more and are the black sheep of the community. Well, at least the effects in this game aren't broken, right? God damn it. Sonic Colors Ultimate will release and be extremely buggy once it released, and also feature other host of issues like removing save files, tail save not being toggleable, not toggleable remixes even if I like the remixes more, AI upscaled cutscenes. This shit was just a mess upon release. Personally, I like Colors Ultimate here. I prefer the lighting engine, the remixes, etc, etc. I haven't run into many bugs while playing on both occasions. I like Colors Ultimate and even the new additions it has. Failsafe, in my opinion, is whatever, but things like the Rival Rust and Jade Ghost Wisp bar need, in my opinion. I know people are gonna hate me for this, but I also cannot deny the awful state this game came out in. Just because I didn't have any issues with the game doesn't mean the issues aren't there. Colors Ultimate is a pretty fucking buggy mess. It was just a god-awful state to see Sonic in. And the fact that this was the 30th celebration game was really a bad sign. And now, next up is Sonic 3 and Knuckles and Sonic Origins with its brand new remaster of, well, Sonic 3 and Knuckles. And I've gotta say, it has its issues. Yeah, sure, I could go over Origins as a whole and how it has some certain issues, but I'm not really gonna call these remasters. They also feel like just enhanced port. If you want to know my opinion on them, I have a whole video on them. Just go watch that. It's not that much different though, they're just the Christian Whitehead version put on console. While 3 and K here is overall a pretty fine remaster of the game in widescreen with 60 FPS and a drop dash, and it has a few host of issues, with mainly the physics importing the game to the retro engine. The physics here are a lot faster, leading certain sections to break and Sonic flying off camera at times, which was never a thing in the original game. And with the addition of Amy Rose and Sonic Origins Plus, It sometimes doesn't work due to the fact that her size doesn't work with the hitboxes and crushing in certain stage. In fact, Carnival Night as a whole is just an annoying ass stage to get through because of how much crushing you might experience just by going fast in your Sonic game. Overall, the remaster is, again, a little weird, but for most people playing it, I think they'll have a fine time. The physics will only throw off more experienced players. And now, in the year of our Lord 2024, we're getting Sonic X Shadow Generations, which in my opinion, looks kind of underwhelming. The Shadow Generation portion looks great and absolutely amazing if you ask me, but the Sonic Generations part looks lame. No real upgrades or changes how the game looked at all, still rocking those pixelated shadows and those 2011 models I see. The game just looks underwhelming. This is clearly out of fear done with Colors Ultimate, and while it was more than just the lighting engine people had an issue with Colors, the lighting engine was part of criticisms for Colors Ultimate, and Sega seemingly responded to this by doing nothing. Now, while some fans have been able to analyze the trailer and see minor differences, the game doesn't look like anything more than an enhanced port. And that, in my opinion, is just sad. That Sega is so bad with remasters that they can't do anything more than make an enhanced port. I would love to see more Sonic remakes and remasters though. Even if they're not completely great, in my opinion, I would still love to just see these games accessible for newer audiences. Especially since most of the issues in some of these games are the only stuff Sonic fans really complain about. You give a kid Sonic Colors Ultimate and I'm sure they're gonna have a fun time regardless. Going forward though, I feel like Sega should have some competence with these remakes and remasters. They've been going on making these for almost decades now, and none of them have really come out great except for like 2. And that's really sad. Hand these games off to fans who actually care about them like you did with the Sonic 1 and 2 and CD version of these games. I can promise you it will bring in so much bank, especially since Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 are games that aren't even accessible in the modern age anymore unless you have a PC. I am happy Sonic X Shadow Generations exists, not only just because I like the Shadow content a lot, but Sonic Generations is arguably the best Sonic game, like, ever. So the fact that people are able to play it on modern consoles now is honestly great. And it would be also great to see other more obscure games get these re-release treatments. Sure, Unleashed for PC is something that's going hard right now, but I would love to see Sonic and the Black Knight, Sonic Heroes, Sonic Advance games, the Sonic Rush games. All these games should be relatively accessible. Sonic the Hedgehog is a franchise with 30 years under its belt, yet on modern consoles you can only really play about 2 games that are actually from the past era. So I would still love to see more remakes and remasters of Sonic Unleashed, Sonic and the Black Knight, Sonic and the Secret Rings, even if you want to throw it in there. Maybe the Advance games, the Rush games, anything, something to throw a bone at these older games that could kill for a re-release. And please make sure you have a reliable team around these. I don't really like the fact that Sonic Team is also working on Sonic X Shadow Generations, as they probably do not have that much staff as is. Apparently there was only like 120 people even working on Frontier. That's just a shame. Sure, I have immense respect for Sonic Team now after things like Frontiers and Superstars come out to be pretty quality, but I do recommend you split off these games onto other, more reliable teams. I doubt Sega is going to go back to Blind Squirrel after the Colors Ultimate fiasco, even though I can completely believe that Sega is at fault here. But maybe give talented devs like the people who worked on the SpongeBob or Crash remakes a chance, because I know they can probably whip up something amazing with the proper time and budget. Overall, I feel like these remakes and even side games suffer from the fact that Sega is just in a god-awful company. Sumo Digital making Team Sonic Racing was clearly a rush job. The fact that they teased the game with a December 2019 release date and even then had to delay it just for it to come out fine is a clear sign that the team wasn't given a proper time and budget, because we know these developers can make something great. I especially suspect that the same thing happened with Colors Ultimate. Looking at the timeline of what happened, it doesn't seem like this game was planned to come out when it did. It seems like the game had an original 2020 release date, COVID happened, and they delayed it, but even then they still weren't given the proper time and or budget. They still wanted that 30th anniversary release date. So the lessons we learned today is that Sega should give their developers more time and resources, even if it's a licensed developer or an in-house. Please give your developers the extra time and resources. That'd be great. And make more Sonic remasters. Sure, I am a little underwhelmed by Sonic X Shadow Generations, But I love Generations regardless, so it'll still be a fun time to replay. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.